It's Friday, May 3rd.
I think you know that as of 9 o'clock, we have listed.
A day after the UN Security Council listed Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar as a global terrorist after China dropped its long-standing objection to the proposal, Pakistan said it will immediately impose sanctions on Azhar, which entails a ban on foreign travel, assets freeze, and arms embargo. Pakistan said it agreed with the blacklisting of Azhar after political references, including those linking him with the Pulwama attack, were removed from the proposal.
If you look at the UN notification, it very clearly states that Masood Azhar was listed for participating in the financing, planning, facilitating, and perpetrating terrorist activities associated with Jaish-e-Mohammed. This broadly covers all terror activities which Masood Azhar has been involved in. There are elements being introduced to divert the attention from, and especially from Pakistan, on this huge diplomatic setback which they have suffered. Frankly, they have no choice. They can't welcome the decision. They can't criticize the decision. In both cases, there will be criticism at home for them.
Pakistan, one may recall, has been trying to avoid being blacklisted by the Financial Action Task Force. The terror financing watchdog has been mounting pressure on Pakistan. Pakistani Daily Dawn had reported in March this year that the Financial Action Task Force had specifically noted with concern and condemned the Pulwama attack, saying such incidents proved that terrorism continues to threaten societies and citizens around the world, which could not occur without money and the means to move funds among terrorist supporters. If blacklisted, Pakistan may be downgraded by multilateral lenders like the IMF, World Bank, EU, etc. The Supreme Court has asked the Election Commission to take a decision on all Model Code of Conduct violation complaints filed against Prime Minister Modi and BJP President Amit Shah by Monday. The court was hearing a petition filed by the Congress party accusing the Election Commission of inaction and bias on complaints against the two. There are 11 complaints against Modi and Shah. During the hearing on Thursday, the EC told the Supreme Court it had already decided on 2 complaints. In both complaints, the poll panel has cleared the Prime Minister. The Court of Arbitration for Sport has rejected double Olympic champion Caster Semenya's challenge against the International Association of Athletics Federation, or IAAF's, rules forcing female athletes to regulate their testosterone levels. The IAAF 2018 ruling forces female athletes with differences of sexual development to take drugs in order to lower their testosterone levels below a prescribed amount if they wish to continue competing. That level has to be maintained below 5 nanomoles per liter of blood. The World Athletics governing body claims women with naturally high testosterone levels have a significant performance advantage over their peers in certain events. The Court of Arbitration for Sport, while not overturning the IAAF regulations, has expressed some serious concerns as to the future practical application of these regulations. Judges specifically raised the issue of unintentional non-compliance, given the difficulty of maintaining artificial testosterone levels and the possible side effects of mandated hormone treatment. In March this year, the United Nations Human Rights Council adopted a resolution branding the IAAF rules as unnecessary, humiliating, and harmful. Experts writing in the British Medical Journal say there is lack of evidence about testosterone's effects, and the cutoff figure given by the IAAF is arbitrary. Cara Tannenbaum, Scientific Director of the Institute of Gender and Health at the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, told AFP earlier this year, to become a great athlete requires at least 10,000 hours of training, focus, discipline, timing, coaching, equipment, and strategy. If we exclude women who have high testosterone levels from track events, will we then decide to exclude men who are extraordinarily tall from playing basketball? It would be unscientific to make decisions on exclusion for men or women based on a single genetic factor alone. Setting a limit of 5 nanomoles per liter of blood was arbitrary and discriminatory, Cara Tannenbaum wrote in the British Medical Journal. Let's look at the checkered history of sex testing. How did all this start? The rules mandating women athletes prove their femininity date back to the Cold War days. The hyperandrogenism rule is only a recent variant. During the Cold War, when muscular women athletes from the Soviet Union were winning medals, fears that men were competing in the guise of women resulted in the introduction of gender verification, where women athletes were made to strip and their genitalia examined. Following outrage, a variant was introduced, chromosome testing, on the basis that women typically have XX chromosome and men XY. The scientific community opposed these tests. Mario Capecci, professor of human genetics at the University of Utah School of Medicine, had this to say to the Globe and Mail. Gender is a very complicated matter. Agreed, females usually have 2X chromosomes, while males have 1X and 1Y. If Y DNA is present, you think this must be male, but it turns out it's not true. Females may have only a part of a Y chromosome, which isn't enough to confirm maleness, or they may have a complete Y but show no male characteristics because Y chromosome is ineffective and unexpressed. That's where the failure of these kinds of tests come in. They are not foolproof. Chromosome testing was stopped in the 1990s. Genetic tests to determine the presence of male-determining gene SRY also proved to be unreliable. Arne Ljungqvist, former chairman of the International Olympic Committee's Medical Commission, who helped abolish blanket testing of women, told the New York Times it was an unethical, unscientific, and discriminatory practice. While mandatory testing was stopped, women athletes continued to be subjected to gender verification tests on complaints or if suspicion was aroused. South African track superstar Caster Semenya being a case in point. The hyperandrogenism rule, which is a form of sex testing, the Mint observes, is unique in the sporting world for being the only policy that prohibits a natural phenomenon. Why is swimming legend Michael Phelps, who has a rare genetic disorder called Marfan syndrome, which is characterized by hyperflexibility, long limbs, and long thin fingers, not seen as having an unfair advantage? Or multiple Olympic medal winning skier Iro Mintrinta, who had a mutation in something called the EPOR gene, which improves the oxygen carrying capacity of a person's blood by 25 to 50%. Or, as former Sports Authority of India Chief Gigi Thompson, who had taken a sympathetic view of Duti Chand's case, was quoted as saying, Usain Bolt was born with very long legs. He completes the 100-meter race in 41 strides. His nearest competitor takes 45. Should we ban Bolt? Just about every athlete at the elite level is a physical outlier. So, does this week's ruling by the Court of Arbitration for Sport mean the debate has ended? Unlikely. Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaidó kick-started massive protest called Operation Liberty on Wednesday. The interim president posted videos of himself on the road with soldiers on social media rallying for citizens and the military to join in. While soldiers joined in, much of the military leadership remains loyal to Maduro. Wednesday's massive protests were met with tear gas pellets from the National Guards. One young woman lost her life and over 40 others were injured. Meanwhile, Venezuelans fearing intimidation remain hesitant to join protest rallies. State employees, for instance, have been told for years that they would stand to lose their jobs if they did not turn up at government rallies, reported the BBC. Caught in a stalemate, it isn't clear what more Guaidó and his Western allies can do if his offer of amnesty and US's promise to lift sanctions is not enough to spur the military to abandon Maduro in large numbers, analyzed Reuters. Guaidó is recognized as the legitimate head of state by 50 countries including the US and UK. Maduro is backed by countries including Russia, China and Cuba. While the Trump-led US government has repeatedly said military options are on the table, there is deep skepticism on whether the US, freshly out of Syria and Afghanistan, is ready for a new foreign conflict, say analysts. To recap, in the grip of inflation, a potent water and electricity crisis, Venezuela is imploding. The crisis started in January when, responding to nationwide protests, 35-year-old Juan Guaidó, a newcomer on the national scene, declared himself interim president. Protege of Latin America's much-loved previous president Hugo Chavez, Maduro has faced constant mass opposition in his 6 years in office. Each time his response has been a military crackdown, and as tensions continue to soar, all eyes are on whom the military will support this time. And finally, meanwhile, is it a pothole? Is it a dinosaur? Is it a Yeti? It is a wild bear that frequently visits the area, said the Nepal army, dismissing the Indian Army's claims of having spotted the elusive snowman on the Himalayan Whites. A one-legged bear? The story just gets stranger. Well, you bear with a weekend without us, and we'll be back Monday with more bear news and bear facts. See you. Love your morning fix? Help support our journalism. Subscribe to Scroll Plus using the link in the description.